I've written a chapter about gender nonconformity, and I look at the history of gay rights and trans rights, and you can see one for one the headlines that were anti-gay in the 80s and virtually the same headline every time for trans rights now. And I'm looking at the history of the orphan as well, which I think is interesting because I am an orphan. I was adopted. And an orphan doesn't necessarily mean your parents have died. It's just they can't or won't take care of you. And so, in the early 20th century, if you had adopted a child, that child was your ward and you were their guardian, and they were a waif, they were a stray, they were a bastard, they were lots of things, but they were not your son or daughter. And by the time I came along, it was normal to say mummy and daddy and for them to say this is our daughter. I have siblings who are both biologically my parents. I'm the only non-biological child. But if I were Jane Eyre in the 1800s, I would have said Mrs. Reed, and it would have been very clear that I was a charity case, and that's what happened to Jane Eyre. So she was adopted, but she was adopted in a way that made her feel other, less than, badly mangled her self-esteem. But in the early 20th century, if you'd said this is my daughter, and then they'd found out you were adopted, they would have thought that person was a fantasist and a liar, because you can't argue with biology. That is not your daughter. But because at some point, because of the rights of the child and various things, we just decided biology wasn't the most important thing when it came to families. So I was introduced as my parents' daughter. It was mummy and daddy and my brother and sister and whatever. I am my mother's daughter. Like that is, I'm more my mother's daughter than I am not. If she needs a kidney, I'm no help at all. But because of laws and because of language, I am my mother's daughter, and I would not be if the laws and the language hadn't facilitated that. I would not feel like her daughter. So I feel like that's something to just think about. Yeah. It's not a direct one-for-one, but I wanted to put it in the book because I just wanted people to think about it. And I've said at the beginning of the book, you won't agree with me on all of this. In fact, I hope you don't. I hope you are at some points going, not sure about that. What about that? Oh, that's interesting. Never thought of that. Sometimes you might shout at the book. That's okay. This book is there to engender just everyone to get out of their, well, this is the way it is, and this is the only framework, this is the only paradigm, and to rethink things.